Life at Sunset Acres. The earth was cool and damp beneath Lily's bare feet as she knelt, weeding around the tomato plants. Patches, her mischievous goat, nudged her shoulder, bleating softly. All right, Lily chuckled, scratching behind his ears. Just give me a minute, you furry vacuum cleaner. Patches, true to form, promptly tried to nibble at the brim of her straw hat. Sunset Acres wasn't much to look at, just a modest ranch house with peeling paint and a sprawling garden bursting with life. But to Lily, it was everything. Her abuela, bless her soul, had poured her heart and soul into this land, coaxing life from the stubborn Texas soil. Lily remembered long summer days spent trailing after her abuela, learning the secrets of the garden, the rhythm of the seasons. Patience, mi nina, abuela Elena would say, her voice raspy but kind. The land provides, but only if you listen. Now, Lily was the one listening. She grew almost everything she needed: plump tomatoes, vibrant peppers, fragrant herbs. She bartered with neighbors for eggs and milk, her life a carefully balanced ecosystem of self-sufficiency. It was a far cry from her life in the city, the endless meetings, the soul-crushing commute. Here, the only deadlines were set by the sun, the only traffic jams caused by Patches blocking the gate. A sigh escaped her lips, not of discontent, but of contentment. The memory of her abuela's smile, the feel of the warm earth in her hands, the quiet companionship of Patches, it was enough. Or it had been. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange, pink, and gold. The air cooled, carrying the scent of honeysuckle and damp earth. Lily leaned back on her heels, watching the spectacle unfold. Sunset Acres, bathed in golden light, felt like a sanctuary, a refuge from the chaos of the world. But even sanctuaries had their shadows. The letter from the HOA was tucked in her pocket, a cold, hard lump against her thigh, a stark reminder that peace was a fragile thing, easily shattered. The new sheriff in town. The town hall buzzed with an energy Lily hadn't felt since the annual pie-eating contest. Folding chairs scraped against the linoleum floor as neighbors settled in, a collective murmur rising like cicadas on a hot summer night. The agenda was simple: the formation of a homeowners association. A sign of progress, some said. An unwelcome intrusion, Lily thought, fiddling with the worn brim of her straw hat. Mayor Thompson, looking slightly harried, cleared his throat. All right, folks, let's get started. As you know, with the recent influx of new residents, we've seen certain challenges in maintaining community standards. Lily stifled a groan. She knew what he meant. Mr. Henderson's perpetually overgrown lawn. Mrs. Gable's questionable collection of garden gnomes. The unspoken target, her own burgeoning permaculture garden. A hand shot up. I nominate myself for president. The voice, sharp and unwavering, belonged to Agnes Crabtree. Her perfectly coiffed gray hair gleamed under the fluorescent lights. A collective sigh seemed to ripple through the room, a mix of resignation and apprehension. I believe, Agnes continued, smoothing down her impeccably tailored blazer, that clear rules and regulations are essential for a thriving community. We need designated parking, strict guidelines on landscaping, and a cohesive aesthetic. She brandished a thick binder. I've already drafted a preliminary set of bylaws. Lily's stomach clenched. With all due respect, Mrs. Crabtree, she began, her voice trembling slightly. Don't you think some of these regulations might be a little restrictive? We all chose to live out here for the space, the freedom to express ourselves. Agnes fixed her with a steely gaze. Freedom must be tempered with responsibility, Ms. Hernandez. A free-for-all benefits no one. She tapped the binder. These bylaws are designed to protect property values and ensure a harmonious living environment. Lily glanced around, searching for support. Most of her neighbors avoided her gaze. The lure of order, it seemed, was a powerful one, an unexpected notice. The cream-colored envelope felt heavier than it should. Junk mail usually had a flimsy, weightless quality, but this felt official. Lily recognized the embossed logo of the Harmony Ridge Homeowners Association in the upper left corner. A knot tightened in her stomach. She hadn't had any dealings with them since replacing her dying rose bushes with drought-tolerant lavender last spring. Slicing open the envelope with her fingernail, she unfolded the stiff paper. The heading blared, Notice of Excessive Water Usage. Her brow furrowed. Excessive? She was practically a desert dweller in her water habits. The HO was notorious for its overzealous regulations, but this seemed particularly absurd. The notice detailed a spike in her water consumption over the past 3 months, exceeding the community average by a significant margin. It threatened fines if the issue wasn't addressed immediately. Lily tossed the paper onto the kitchen counter, a frustrated huff escaping her lips. Pulling up her water bill online, she meticulously compared the current month's usage to previous ones. Indeed, there was a noticeable increase, even accounting for the hotter summer months. But it still didn't align with her conservation efforts. She timed her showers, only ran the dishwasher and washing machine when full, and had even started collecting rainwater for her potted herbs. Lily walked through her small house, mentally cataloging her water usage. No dripping faucets, no running toilets. Outside, the automatic sprinkler system was on a timer and only watered the meticulously xeriscaped yard twice a week, at dawn. She checked the irrigation lines anyway, bending low to inspect for leaks. Nothing. The sun beat down on her neck as she straightened up, a growing sense of unease settling in. Where was all this extra water going? It had to be a mistake, a faulty meter reading, or something else. The thought of escalating this with the HOA, of facing Mrs. Abernathy's withering gaze, made her skin crawl, but she knew she couldn't ignore it. This was her home, her life, and she wouldn't be bullied into paying for water she didn't use. The leaky culprit. Lily circled the vegetable garden, the damp earth squelching softly under her boots. The absurd water bill still stung, a blatant attempt to bully her into submission. She refused to let Karen win. Today, she'd find the source of the supposed excessive usage, even if it meant turning over every inch of her property. Hummingbird, perched on a sunflower, tilted his tiny head, as if offering encouragement. "Thanks, buddy," she murmured, pushing aside a broad zucchini leaf. Nothing. Just healthy, thriving plants drinking their fill of rainwater and carefully measured well water. She moved towards the old oak, its gnarled branches reaching like welcoming arms. The ground beneath was perpetually shaded, cool and mossy. As she knelt, a faint hissing sound caught her ear. It was subtle, almost masked by the rustling leaves, but it was there. Following the sound, she traced it to a patch of unusually vibrant moss clinging to the base of the oak. Pushing the moss aside, her fingers brushed against something cold and slick. A pipe. And a tiny but persistent spray of water was jetting from a hairline crack, disappearing into the thirsty roots of the ancient tree. "Bingo," she whispered, a mixture of relief and frustration washing over her. Relief that she'd found the culprit. Frustration that such a small leak could cause so much trouble. She hurried back to the shed, the gravel crunching underfoot. Inside, she rummaged through her toolbox, selecting pipe clamps, sealant, and a sturdy wrench. This was a job for ingenuity, not calling a plumber and handing Karen another victory. Back at the oak, she shut off the main valve, grabbed her tools, and got to work. The cool earth and the shade of the oak offered a comforting sense of peace as she prepared to do battle with the leaky culprit, determined to plug the hole in more ways than one. Turning off the tap, the gurgling symphony from beneath the kitchen sink had reached a crescendo. Time to silence the orchestra. Lily located the main water valve, a corroded sentinel guarding the border between municipal supply and her little patch of earth. It was nestled in a concrete bunker near the property line, half hidden by overgrown juniper. She wrestled the heavy metal lid open, the rusty hinges groaning in protest. The valve itself was a monument to neglect. Orange rust bloomed across its surface like a malevolent fungus. Lily gripped the handle, its cold metal biting into her palm. She strained, pulling with all her might. Nothing. It was stuck fast, a stubborn mule refusing to budge. She muttered a curse under her breath, picturing the growing puddle beneath her sink. Seriously? She grunted, wrapping both hands around the handle. She braced her feet against the side of the bunker and pulled again, her muscles screaming in protest. A screech of metal on metal, like a banshee wail, finally rewarded her efforts. The valve shuddered, then slowly began to turn. She worked it inch by agonizing inch, the sound echoing in the otherwise still afternoon. Unbeknownst to Lily, Agnes Crabtree was observing her from across the street, a pair of binoculars pressed to her eyes. Agnes, a woman whose life revolved around meticulously manicured lawns and the iron fist of the HOA, had witnessed Lily's arrival with suspicion from day one. The sight of Lily wrestling with the water valve sent a thrill of righteous indignation through her. "Sabotage," she hissed, her breath fogging the lenses. "She's cutting off the water to the whole neighborhood." Agnes imagined the chaos, the parched lawns, the unwashed cars. This was it, the perfect excuse to finally take control. She lowered the binoculars, a self-satisfied smirk playing on her lips. Time to make a call. Accusations and arguments. Lily straightened, her back protesting the hours spent crouched near the leaky pipe. She wiped the grime from her forehead, leaving a streak of dirt against her skin. The setting sun cast long shadows across the parched earth, painting the landscape in hues of orange and purple. She was exhausted, but satisfied. The trickle of water had finally stopped. "You." Agnes Crabtree's voice sliced through the evening calm like a rusty blade. Lily flinched, turning to see Mrs. Crabtree marching toward her, face contorted in a furious scowl. "What do you think you're doing, you little thief?" Mrs. Crabtree screeched, her voice echoing across the quiet ranch. "Turning off the water like that. Do you have any idea the damage you're causing?" Lily sighed. "Mrs. Crabtree, there was a leak. A pretty bad one. I was just trying to fix it." She gestured toward the newly patched pipe, the clay still damp. "Don't you lie to me. I saw you fiddling with the main valve. You're stealing water. You're probably selling it to those outsiders." Mrs. Crabtree's face was flushed, her chest heaving with indignation. "Selling water?" Lily repeated, incredulous. "That's absurd. I live here. I need water too. And I assure you, I wasn't fiddling. I shut off the main valve to stop the leak, so I could make repairs." The scent of sunbaked sage hung heavy in the air as Lily struggled to remain calm. "Repairs? Huh. You're just trying to cover your tracks. Turn the water back on, right now." Mrs. Crabtree jabbed a finger in Lily's direction, her eyes narrowed to slits. "I'm calling the authorities. Water theft is a serious crime." Lily's patience snapped. "This is my land, Mrs. Crabtree, and I was fixing a problem that was wasting water. Maybe if you spent less time spying on me and more time minding your own business, we wouldn't be having this conversation." 911 emergency. Agnes Crabtree stabbed a finger at her phone screen, her face a roadmap of wrinkles deepened by fury. "That's it. I've had it with you, young lady," she screeched, the sound carrying on the dry wind. She jabbed at the numbers, her hand trembling so violently she almost missed the last digit. 911, this is an emergency. I need the police here immediately." Lily, who had been calmly tending her tomato plants, straightened up, trowel clattering against the metal of the raised bed. "Mrs. Crabtree, what are you doing?" "I'm reporting a crime. That's what I'm doing. I have visual confirmation of water sabotage." Mrs. Crabtree bellowed into the phone, her voice cracking with indignation. Lily could hear the tinny voice of the operator filtering through the speaker. "Yes, that's right, sabotage. This person has been diverting water from the main line, depriving honest citizens of their rightful share." Lily's mouth fell open. "You're calling 911? Over this? Mrs. Crabtree, this is ridiculous. I showed you the meter. This is my well water." The absurdity of the situation was almost laughable, if it weren't so infuriating. The smell of sun-baked earth and ripening tomatoes suddenly felt suffocating. "She's right here, officer. Perpetrating the crime as we speak." Mrs. Crabtree pointed a bony finger, her eyes blazing. "She's got illegal pipes, I tell you. Hoses snaking everywhere, sucking up all the precious water. It's a conspiracy." The operator's voice, calm and measured, cut through Mrs. Crabtree's tirade. "Ma'am, can you describe the suspect? Describe her?" She's a water bandit." Mrs. Crabtree sputtered, her face turning an alarming shade of purple. "She's got brown hair. And she's wearing overalls. Arrest her. Arrest her now before she drains the whole county dry." Lily stared, speechless, as Mrs. Crabtree continued her rant, painting her as some kind of aquatic villain. The distant wail of a siren began to rise, carried on the wind, a chilling punctuation mark to the escalating madness. "Deputy on the scene." Dust billowed behind the sheriff's department cruiser as it crunched to a halt in front of Lily's gate. Deputy Ray Johnson, a man whose face seemed permanently etched with a gentle weariness, unfolded himself from the vehicle. He adjusted his Stetson, the brim casting a shadow that momentarily hid his eyes. Agnes Crabtree stood rigidly on Lily's porch, arms crossed so tightly her knuckles were white. "Took you long enough," she snapped. Ray ignored her, offering Lily a polite nod. "Ma'am, I'm Deputy Johnson," Mrs. Crabtree called in a disturbance. Agnes puffed up like a ruffled hen. "Disturbance? This is grand theft, destruction of property, and water abuse." Ray held up a calming hand. "Let's hear both sides, ma'am." "Mrs. Hernandez," Lily supplied, her voice a little shaky but firm. She gestured towards the dripping pipe near the barn. "That's my water line. It burst. I shut off the valve to stop the flooding while I wait for the plumber." Agnes scoffed. "She's lying. She's diverting water. I saw her. Ray turned his attention to the pipe. He knelt, his fingers tracing the corroded metal. A slow drip formed, then another, splattering on the dry earth. The air hung thick with the smell of damp soil and something faintly metallic. "Looks like a pretty clear case of a busted pipe to me, ma'am," Ray said, rising and brushing dust from his knees. He pulled out a small pocket knife and scraped at the pipe's surface. "See the corrosion? This thing was ready to go." He looked from the pipe back to Mrs. Crabtree, his expression neutral. "Mrs. Crabtree, I understand your concern about water usage, but it appears Mrs. Hernandez was preventing waste, not causing it." He paused, letting the information sink in. "I don't see any crime here." Peace restored. The flashing lights of the sheriff's cruiser painted the dusty yard in alternating strobes of red and blue. Lily stood with her arms crossed, the wrench still clutched in her hand, facing Agnes Crabtree, whose face was a mask of indignant fury. Deputy Johnson, a man whose uniform seemed permanently rumpled and whose eyes held the weary patience of someone who'd seen it all, sighed. "Now, Mrs. Crabtree, I understand you called regarding a water dispute?" Agnes puffed up. This woman is stealing water. She's diverting it from the community supply to her ranch." She gestured wildly at the parched fields beyond Lily's property. Lily stepped forward, her voice steady. "I'm repairing a broken pipe, Deputy. The water I'm using is from my well, on my property. I have the rights. I filed the paperwork years ago." Johnson turned his attention to Lily, his gaze assessing. "You got the documentation to back that up, ma'am?" Lily nodded, pointing towards the house. "Inside. I can get it." "Hold on a minute," Johnson said, turning back to Mrs. Crabtree. "Ma'am, unless you have proof that she's violating some kind of water restriction or stealing from the community supply, then she's within her rights." He then patiently explained the regulations regarding well water usage and property rights within the county. Agnes's face slowly drained of color as she listened. A shadow fell across them. Mr. Abernathy, the HOA president, approached, looking sheepish. "Agnes, I think we may have overreacted. I've reviewed the water rights documentation. Lily is correct." He cleared his throat. "Lily, on behalf of the HOA, I apologize for this misunderstanding." Agnes sputtered, but Abernathy cut her off with a raised hand. With the cruiser gone and the apologies offered, Lily returned to the broken pipe. Patches, tail wagging tentatively, nudged her hand. The setting sun cast long shadows, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. This time, as she tightened the final connection, the only sound was the gentle rush of water filling the pipe and the contented purr of her cat. Peace, however fragile, had been restored to Sunset Acres.